Good evening and welcome to a very late night edition of Dawg Sports Live. I am Graham Coffee. You might know me as at Dog Out West on Twitter and on SB Nation's Dog Sports. This is my co-host, Mr. Josh Hancher. Say hello, Josh.
Good evening.
And we are here tonight to talk a little bit about Georgia's returning and incoming wide receivers and tight ends as we continue our spring previews of each position group for the Dogs. There is a lot to get into in terms of returning receiving production for Georgia. And Josh, I know you've got some pretty interesting stats to kind of lead us off on. You want to take us away?
Yeah, I know that we all know, most of us know that the Dogs are returning something like 98% of receiving production, which is kind of rare. You know, we've got a quarterback in place with JT Daniels. We've got a go-to wide receiver and George Pickens, who's a, potential all-SEC first teamer, if not all-American first teamer. Jermaine Burton came on strong. Kearis Jackson, lots of guys. But if I show some stats here, you can see that Georgia is one of only Mississippi State and Georgia are the only schools returning three receivers with 50 targets from last year, 50 plus targets. If we go down, so you can see some of the guys coming back. You can see a lot of in Mississippi State's going to be replacing a quarterback. Alabama has got all kinds of turnover. They're still going to be great on offense, and you'll see no Florida players on here. So this is
that was my favorite part.
Yeah, the SEC's always got good players. Ole Miss threw it all over the yard last year, but Elijah Moore is gone. But Mingo is going to be solid. But again, they're we don't play them, but. And we go into another group of stats here. These are the yardage and the drops. This is interesting too. I mean, there's many targets. A lot of these guys are getting a lot of targets, and some of them are dropping the ball. But Georgia Pickens and Kearis Jackson only had one drop each. Burton was a freshman last year. He had 3 drops, which still it's not bad. I mean, you can see guys are dropping 6 and 7 balls. So it's not uncommon. So we have good receivers coming back. We have tons of yards coming back. Basically, I think it's Trey McKitty's the only one that's not coming back from any substantial receiving yards. The third group of stats here, and I'll tweet these stats out so you can look at them too down the road after the show or whatever. But these, again, this is the most exciting one. This is the EPA, which I know EPA is sort of a mystery stat. But if you just think of it as the analytics number behind explosiveness. Now, the Todd Monken and the Georgia offense and individual teams often think of explosiveness a little differently than the metrics guys, but this is the metrics version. So you can see that George Pickens is the number 1 wide receiver coming back in explosiveness. This is just how valuable their overall plays are. Every time, this is every play that Pickens touched the ball. Successful plays, unsuccessful plays, his average time he touches the ball, it's a .924 EPA, which is outstanding. And that's his unsuccessful plays and his successful plays. So you can see he's more explosive than Mechie, who's the leading returning receiver for Alabama. So I mean, we know he's good. Let's jump in. What are you gonna say?
No, I mean, I think I'm looking at the same chart you are, but Kearis is also more explosive than Mechie with his EPA as well. Is that correct?
You're looking at the third down measure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay,
no, it's okay. No, it's okay. Yeah, Kearis is still at 6.633 with 3 touchdowns, and this is what Graham was alluding to. This is exciting. This is passing downs, which are usually plays after unsuccessful plays where you're off schedule, behind the chains, or on third downs. So again, George Pickens leads the SEC in returning receivers, and he's a .174 explosiveness rating, if you want to call it that, with a total EPA of all those plays where he touches the ball on passing downs and third downs of 35.676 EPA on those plays. You can see he may not be the highest on this list. No, he is the highest on. No, John Mechie had 42 total EPA on those plays. But you can see Kearis and George are leading the SEC in returning production on passing downs and third downs. So not only are we returning a lot of talent, it's quality talent, it's explosive talent, it's dependable talent when you need to make up from a bad play or convert a third down. This is what we're returning on offense, and it's a lot of reasons to be excited on what we can expect out of our offense next year.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think, we have mentioned the stat on here, obviously, and you already brought it up, but Georgia I think I said a couple times on here incorrectly that they returned 98%. I believe it's actually like 95.6% of the receiving production, but it's by far the highest that we've returned at any point in time in the college football playoff era, and probably any point in time, that any of us would remember, really. But I think the reason that that's crucial, not just because the offense is going to be very good, but there is a really high correlation if you go back year by year between the teams that end up in the college football playoff, the teams that win the national championship, and how much receiving production they return. And Alabama this past year was a good example of it. LSU in 2019 was a phenomenal example of it. And I think that coupled with JT Daniels' performance the last 4 games of the season, I saw a stat the other day. There was only 3 quarterbacks in the country with a QBR over 89 for the last 4 games of the season, and that was Daniels, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields. So it's like there's a lot of pieces coming back there that, like, I hate to say it, but Georgia should make a legitimate run at a national title, and that's not us being homers. I feel like that is what the numbers and the statistics bear out. Would you agree?
Oh, totally agree. I mean, this is what we expected from Kirby Smart. We expect him to take us to the next level. He's recruited at the next level. He's played in several big games. The only 2016 we weren't playing substantial games, but we went into the Gator Bowl versus Florida with a chance to basically, compete for a national championship even after losing Alabama. So everything is there for the Dogs to be right there. Now, injuries happen, things happen, mistakes happens, but there's no reason to think that if Georgia doesn't live up to their potential, that they're not right there in the mix come the SEC championship game.
100%. Well, let's get into these guys a little bit deeper, and not just Pickens, Burton, and Jackson, but also the guys that we'll see in the rotation alongside of them. We're going to start out with the X receivers. Wide receiver 1 there, and probably wide receiver 1 on the team is obviously George Pickens. JT Daniels made it a point to get him the ball when he came into the offense, and truthfully, he's basically uncoverable in man-to-man. And, these plays like this, I think we saw early in the Mississippi State game how much of a difference it makes in the offense when Pickens gets involved. And it makes it easier for everyone else to get theirs. And, I mean, there he does a really nice job of, we talk about a lot, every route in the Mockin offense is an option route, and he finds some space and he sits down, and Daniels puts a nice ball on him. But, I think the thing with Pickens that I get frustrated with is I think there's a lot of pundits that look at Pickens. I know there was some comments made by Buck Bellew on Atlanta Sports Talk Radio recently of like, you can't rely on Pickens being there all season. George Pickens has been suspended for 1 half in his career, and that was after the fight with Swilling in the Georgia Tech game his freshman year. But like the kid,
which by the way is was celebrated by so many Georgia fans. So you can't sit there and say one side of your mouth, celebrate and dig all the against your bitter rival in state, and then criticize a kid, when he does a boneheaded mistake. So you're going to celebrate one and criticize the other. He's a kid playing with emotion. Look, I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that, I share his concerns about him making a mistake and not being available for us, but plays with emotion. He's an incredible talent. So I get tired of people saying, criticizing 1 half and then, celebrating him on the other. So, all right, that was my
No, thank you. Yeah, no, that's well put. And I mean, I think honestly, a lot of it is a little bit of like, I don't know, kind of that stuff that you hear like old white dudes say of like, oh, he celebrates too much or like dancing after the play or whatever.
You can't squirt a guy going out of bounds with a water bottle. You
That
can't
you cannot do. No,
Yeah,
and if you got a problem with
you
that,
can't grab a guy by the face mask and slam him into the wall the game before the SEC championship. I mean, those are mistakes, and I celebrate neither of them. I'm not sure that we win the SEC championship with him, but he's got to be there on the field to give us a chance. But I love the kid. I mean, he's a game signing day flip. He's delivered every time he's been asked to. I mean, he needs to be on the field for us. He was down for 2 games this year. Otherwise, his stats would have been even that much better. But I love the guy.
Yeah, and I mean, he's a game breaker and he's a bulldog. And in the story is that there's a lot of shit that I'm sure anyone watching this show did at that age that they wouldn't want to be judged for or have people make assumptions about their future upon. And so we're pulling for Pickens. We love Pickens. His catch radius is absurd. His athleticism is absurd. Georgia football is truthfully more fun when he is on the field. And I think that, we saw a few times at the end of last season where it was like, you could tell like he was like thinking about doing something that might get him in trouble on the field and he like stopped. So I think that kind of maturity and growth is exciting to see. And I expect him to have a massive season next year.
Did you want to talk any more about this plays? I just kind of rocketed through them. I know you
no, you're good. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then our next guy is Burton, right? Who came on?
No. We got I got Rosemary next.
Rosemary. Yeah. There we go. I got the Florida game queued up.
I think you have it. Yeah. So yeah, Rosemary Jack Saint. He was starting to come on and was inserted into the starting lineup for this game. This was his first touchdown catch of his career. He also broke his leg really gruesomely, so maybe that's my bad for putting that clip in there. But he's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of talent. All reports are that he's healing well. I mean, a broken leg is a serious injury, but fortunately it wasn't any ligament damage. So I would expect him to be back and, really to contribute next year. And seems like a guy that the coaches are excited about. And there's a lot of potential there. And, again, top 50 overall recruit. This class that was just freshman this year with Burton, Rosemary, and Arian Smith, I think we're going to see a lot of production from those guys over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. But after Rosemary at that X receiver position is Justin Robinson, and he was a name that we heard a lot during the early weeks of fall camp last year, but we really never saw too much of him on the field. Still, coaches liked what he did, and it'll be interesting to see if he can kind of make that leap and,
do you think there's as many targets and as many guys have already played, do you expect a guy that didn't play, hasn't heard of, to get a chance? Or, there's just so many mouths to feed, as they say. I mean, it's, do you really expect him to be a contributor? Or is this just a guy that, that we expect to maybe play at spots where guys are hurt or something like that?
I mean, I think in a Monken offense where you're often going to go like 4 wide with wide receivers, that rotation needs to be at least 8 deep. And I mean, with all these guys that have transferred out, hell, Matt Landers got a shitload of targets last year, and he's gone now. And I mean, Tongue and some of these other guys that were in that receiving core that are older than Robinson have left. So that would kind of lead me to believe that maybe he has moved ahead of them in the pecking order. So I think we'll see him on the field at some point. Is he going to be option 1 or option 2 even? No, but I think, we'll probably see him in some quarters of some games where we have big leads. And there also just might be some games where guys are getting nicked up and going down, and he's in there to take snaps. I mean, none of these receivers will play every down.
Yeah. Well, and he's been in the system, and he did well in the limited preseason. So yeah, hopefully, it's just we're blessed with so many great players that Kirby's got in there. So the fact that
Totally.
that guy can be under the radar is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, but after next year, you could see Pickens gone and Jackson gone, and there's going to be that would leave a spot for him because he did not burn any eligibility last year, so he's technically got 4 years to play.
Yeah, so you're breaking this down by X, Y, and Z receivers, right? So he's sort of the
third string X.
Third string X, okay.
Best estimation, but that does not. I want to be very clear. Like, these are projections, and these were where we've seen guys play the most of their snaps in the past. But Monken likes to get creative. He likes to move guys around. Like, we've got Arian Smith as a wide receiver. It wouldn't shock me at all to see him in the slot plenty. But yeah, this is just sort of kind of our best projection, but up to, I think really it's more about just these are the guys that you're going to see on the field and maybe not so much where they're going to be. With a Pickens, you're probably going to see him like outside almost every time, but these other guys will move around.
All right. Who's next up on our position group here that we're going to talk about?
So we're going to go to the wide receivers. And we're going to talk about Jermaine Burton, who I think will, be a bona fide starter for Georgia last year. If you watched the games last season, even when Stetson was in there and the offense was sputtering a bit through the passing game, like I felt like we talked about on the battle hymnal all the time. UI and Nathan talked all the time about like Jermaine Burton was just open everywhere, seemingly like a dozen times a game. There was some play where he was open and nobody was finding him. So Monken really liked, using him as a chess piece. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make like probably the hottest take that I've made on this show in our 5th episode and say that Jermaine Burton is actually the best receiver on the team. Pickens does some things better than Burton, but what I say by that is just like, I think that Burton is the most well-rounded receiver on the team. He runs routes very, very well. He has an excellent catch radius. He has very strong hands. You watch some of the stuff that he does to DBs. He puts guys in the spin cycle. And I think this is the element right here that like he has the ability to make guys miss after the catch, and he's physical enough to run through tackles. And his body type is just different than George Pickens. Like, he's got a low center of gravity, and he's really well built through the thighs and the core. So I think we'll see him, not only on these go routes, like what we're going to see right here with JT thrown to him, but I think we're going to continue to see him get more and more action in the screen game and continue to develop. Because he's only going to have played 10 college football games going into next season.
Yeah, he's fast, he's big, he's going to get, like you saw in the Tennessee game, where he can just take the little screen and just fight for more yards, or he can spread the field like you were watching in the Mississippi State game. So, and he was on the field a lot. It was obviously Monken trusted him, and so did JT and Stetson. He was there. It's just, he's great.
Yeah. No, he is. And he's got a really good catch radius as well. So I think it's exciting. Next guy that you can expect to also play right behind him is this man right here, Arian Smith. He was the signing day win that I was most excited about in the 2020 class. He's raw, and while he doesn't have great route running skills yet, he does have world-class speed. And I think if you put him in a matchup where he's in single coverage, he's going to probably get open. And if you get him in space against the linebacker, he's probably going to score a touchdown. And that's just how fast he is. He's also, I think this is my favorite stat of the offseason so far, he is currently averaging 43 yards per catch in his college career. We just showed you both of his catches. But,
so this play right here, I don't know if he's the first read or what, but he can see he's being jammed at the line. He's got nobody helping him over the top, and this is just where you want him. It's just like, okay,
yeah,
he knows where he's got to go. JT knows where he's going to be, and yet he still outruns JT's arm. but he was open. I mean, it was just great to see. I mean, I was watching. I mean, that's a good secondary that they had, and a lesser secondary that's probably taken to the house. But it was exciting to see him get another chance after that South Carolina. So first ball he touched was a touchdown.
100%. And I mean, I think that just having that on tape right there is going to be such a problem for Clemson and some of the teams that we'll face next season. Just having to account for him is a massive headache. And we can talk more towards the end, but it's just like when you start putting all these pieces together, the problems it creates for defensive coordinators are very real. Last on the wide receivers, we got our boy D-Rob, the old man of the group. Obviously we haven't seen him show that 5-star potential freshman All-American type of season like he had his first year at Cal before he transferred to Georgia. But if not even in his production, I think his leadership is going to be big for Georgia next year. He knows the playbook. He knows where to be. He knows how to be on time. By all accounts, Kirby loves him. He's turned into a very willing and, good blocker in the run game. And I think his speed is still pretty elite, man. And truthfully, we saw JT Daniels look for him and start to find him a good bit towards the end of last season. And nothing would make me happier than for him to just kind of blow up and have a 800-yard season next year. I don't think that's going to happen, but I would love it for him because
he must know he's welcome. I mean, he's a 5th-year guy, or is he? I guess he's either a true senior or whatever. But he came back because of the COVID rules. So,
right.
I mean, he must know he has a place on this squad. So, which is good to know. You want some leadership for so many young players that we're going to be depending on.
Yeah, totally. And I think just those guys that have been around the block a few times can offer some perspective, and I think it's important. All right, let's move on to the slot. So number one receiver we got in the slot is obviously Kearis Jackson, and he really came on in 2021. We heard a lot about him in the build-up to the 2020 season. He started the first game against Vanderbilt and then hurt his wrist, and we really didn't see him again. But last year, he was kind of Stetson's favorite target, really. And then when Daniels came in, he also looked for him quite a bit as well. But I think in a lineup with Jackson, Pickens, and Burton, and him lining up in the slot, you can expect him to get put in a lot of favorable situations because defenses are going to work to bracket the outside receivers with Pickens and Burton and put some safety to help over there and try and force those guys into double coverage. So he should feast really in this offense. And he kind of took over. I mean, he took over the Auburn game at one point last year, and he kind of took over the Tennessee game for a spell as well. He has the ability to do that. And I think he also is a really smart receiver who understands this option-based offense and knows where to sit down and knows how to find space very, very well.
He's getting open on these routes. It's like where you go to a spot, you find the open, spot in the zone or whatever. He's clearly a very intelligent wide receiver running routes, and he was there all for whoever was taking snaps. He was there for him and delivered, and it was a damn good dog to watch.
Totally, yeah. And I mean, I think the thing with Pickens and Burton out there, the whole adage of pick your poison. I think that those two guys might get the majority of the attention. So I think we could be sitting, at the end of next season, and Jackson, I don't think he's a better receiver than Pickens or Burton. I think he's a very skilled and excellent receiver, but I think he might end up having, more yards and catches than anyone on the team. Because
I mean, this play early in the Auburn game was huge. The Auburn broke through, Bennett rolled out and just he got open and made the right break, and it was a huge play.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you could tell like that kind of got him into the flow of the game and got him some confidence in this play as well. You know, this bomb right here. I mean, Georgia was up 17-0 already, but this was kind of the knockout punch for this game. I mean, the moment that Georgia scored after this bomb was hit, like I remember everybody being on Twitter like, yeah, okay, lights out. Like Auburn's not getting 24 on Georgia's D, and they didn't. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's still a whole lot to be excited about with Kyrus, and yeah, I don't want to sleep on him.
No, I mean, so much talent, and it was there. I mean, Stetson had weapons, and that's how we were able to beat Auburn, and that's how we were able to compete in the Alabama game. You know, I think the book got out on him by the time we played Kentucky. But that just goes to show you that as we love Stetson, he was there for us to throw the ball when we didn't have anybody else. But we all know that the offense took off with the same players, but with a better arm. And so, yeah, you can't sleep on any of these guys because there's a lot of talent at the quarterback position, and there's a lot of weapons that he's got at his disposal.
Yeah, totally. So the guy that I'm assuming, if he's healthy, would be the second option in the slot is going to be Dominic Blaylock.
So showing Washington play. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Don't have any Dominic Blaylock from 2020. I mean, I guess I could have gone.
No. It's okay. But yeah, I mean, you guys know Blaylock. You know, he was a breakout true freshman in 2019, and he caught the touchdown pass that got us rolling against Florida. He caught the touchdown pass on the long throw from Fromm that got us rolling against Auburn. Like, he played really well against Tech. He was playing very well against LSU, and then his ACL exploded. And, you know, by all accounts, he was healthy and ready to go for this season, and then tore his other ACL. So really, more than anything, like, I just hope that he gets healthy, because what makes him good is his quick his fast twitch and agility and his route running ability. I don't know how fully back he'll be, but I think him at 85% is still a better route runner than probably most of the starting receivers in the SEC. So it might take all of 2021. It might take, till 2022 before we see him return to form. But again, I think he's an important presence in the locker room and in the program. And I just have a feeling that, he might make a timely catch towards the end of the season or in an SEC championship game type situation. You just never know. With guys that talented, at some point it's going to show back up if he gets healthy.
I mean, I'd use cheering for anybody like that. I mean, we saw so many players have, it seems like more guys can come back from those injuries than ever. I mean, from Nick Chubb to, Thomas Davis came back from more ACL injuries in the NFL than I think anybody in the history of the NFL. Like, he had 3 on the same knee. So fingers crossed that, what's something going on the computer? Okay, let's look at some Darnell Washington plays while I see what's going on over here.
No worries. So yeah, Darnell, moving on to the tight ends. Washington is absolutely a freak show athlete, and I mean, he's just a ridiculous specimen. He's 6'8", 270 pounds. He has surprisingly soft hands, and he is a devastating down the line blocker in the run. Here in his first game, you see him run a little bit of a seam route there, make a nice catch, and then deliver a little bit of run through one tackle. And I think it takes a couple guys to bring him down every time we see him carry the ball. This was the moment that made me stand up with Darnell, though, was against Kentucky when we saw him flexed out wide on his own, like a wide receiver, and just, bodying dudes like he's blocking out for a rebound. Give me that. So I think obviously he's going to be the first option at tight end. And then we saw the Darnell show at the end of the Mizzou game, right? like that was kind of probably one of the more like fun moments of the year. Was Georgia was in a comfortable spot in that game, and it was like, okay, let's see what the freakish kid can do. And he has really soft hands for a guy's size. Obviously, his size makes him kind of impossible to cover. I mean, if the ball is put up in a certain spot,
I mean, that was good defense, and he still came down with it.
Yeah, he reminds me of like Leonard Pope, but with like way better hands and just a more fluid athlete. And I mean, this is another really nice catch from him right here. I mean, like he catches the ball out away from his body, and then he carries like 3 guys 5 yards. But I think that, there's a lot to like there. Second tight end is going to be John Fitzpatrick. He might be the most underrated player on Georgia's team. He had 10 catches and 95 yards last year, not blowing up the stat sheet, but he was a 4-star recruit. Like he was a top 300 player in the country. And if you look at him run right there, like he is a very, he looks very comfortable carrying the ball in open space.
And he'll block for Monken. He can be that H-back when we're not running a fullback that will go down there and make a block for pass pro or to spring a running back.
Yeah. And I mean, he's 6'6", 241. And like, I think his blocking ability is obviously like you're bringing up, like that's going to be his primary role in this offense. But I keep seeing a lot of people talk about Brock Bowers, like coming in and, taking his job and maybe even challenging Darnell Washington. And it's like, don't sleep on Fitzpatrick. I think he's a really good player and he plays sound assignment football. And
you've just rattled off a 4-star. Bowers is a highly rated recruit. I think he was a 4-star, and we've got Darnell, who's a 5-star. So everyone was sort of disappointed not to go get Eric Gilbert. I mean, like we're okay at tight end. We're okay at tight end.
Yeah, what are you going to do with Eric Gilbert? I mean, I don't know. We wish Eric Gilbert the best. I hope that he finds.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, from strictly, like who does? I mean, of course, I wanted him. It's the shiny object in the store. But it's like we're okay. We don't need any more. We don't have any holes to fill. We have some things we have to execute and accomplish, but we don't have a lot of holes to fill. Certainly not at tight end.
I will say though that if Monken comes out at some point this season in like a 3 tight end set with like Darnell out wide, maybe Bowers in the slot, and then like Fitzpatrick with his hand in the dirt on the end of the line, like that's going to be absolute pure sex on a football field. And I really hope it happens.
Yeah. And Cook out and deep in the backfield, and Milton playing fullback and little 32 personnel.
Yeah, totally. That's what I'm talking. Yeah, absolutely.
Or 23, I guess. 2 running
our
backs.
Goal line package. Yeah, our goal line package should be like
And Jalen Carter is like, "Yo, where am I?"
Yeah.
Don't sleep on Jalen Carter coming out of the
I really want Jordan Davis to catch a touchdown pass.
Shout out to Jalen Carter, who followed me this week on Twitter. I appreciate you.
Damn.
I know. It's like, he did the work. I just put a play up there, which was it was one of our favorite plays early in the season. It was sweet.
Yeah. Hey, before we close, I want to get your opinion on a little bit of like an interesting Twitter conversation I got into today that a lot of people joined in on.
We're not talking about baseball.
No, we're not talking about fucking Tom Cruise.
That was fun. Movies. Love you guys. Mean it.
What was the loudest Georgia game you've ever attended in Sanford Stadium?
Dirty little secret is I haven't seen as many games in person as a lot of the folks that I have the pleasure of following and interacting with on Twitter.
All right. Well, then what was the loudest? What was, if not in person, what was the loudest? Like, what do you feel like in your mind?
All right. So here's my best story about that. I mean, I was at a couple of the LSU games that were went down the wire. A couple we won, a couple we lost. I was at the Dobnail boot game, which was the loudest and the quietest. But my favorite story I like to tell was I actually filming a commercial in Alabama on the night of the first blackout, the Auburn blackout game. And that was before smartphones. I'm that old. So we were filming in a neighborhood. So we had like police officers there to control traffic and stuff so that when we were filming in the street that no one would run up and stuff like that. So I'm literally propped up on an Alabama municipal police officer's patrol car listening to the Auburn game. And I was listening to the Auburn feed, of course, because he was an Auburn guy, and you could just hear the noise. Like it was hard to discern the Auburn play-by-play and color guy from the crowd noise. I mean, it was just, I remember getting goosebumps on that. And and it was early in the game, that game is history. You remember that being, but it was a big game. It was like, obviously we won, but it's like, it wasn't, that was a little bit of an upset, and it was just, you could just feel the energy coming through that radio. So that I was not there, but that's certainly the loudest, most juiced atmosphere I can remember being a part of. And what about yours? What is yours? I mean, you've been to more games than me. I mean, I know everyone's talking about the Notre Dame games, but that's not your most juiced atmosphere, right?
I was not at that Notre Dame game, so
okay.
I don't know, but I think the loudest moment I ever heard was the 2007 blackout game when they ran out of the tunnel and it was like, holy shit, Georgia's wearing black, and like that was the most that was the most fun thing ever. Like I was a freshman in college, we went to the Sugar Bowl, New Orleans, all that. Yeah, it was a great year. I had a lot of fun. But like I do remember literally the sound got to a point where it was so loud that like it kind of like cracked, like when you hear like an airplane like crack a sound barrier, and like it stopped being sound, like it just became like silent white noise for a second when they all ran out. And that like that gives me like goosebumps thinking about it and talking about it. But I think the game that was like the loudest snap to start to finish was probably 2004 LSU, in my opinion, which was, they had beaten us twice the year before. They were defending national champions, Saban, all those guys. And I think they were, number 4 in the country. And they came in and, David Green just like played the game of his life, and we beat him by 30 points or something. But I just remember that place being like pandemonium the whole day. But yeah, I think the blackout is probably the right answer. But I was just curious because I did see a lot of people kind of going for 2017 Notre Dame, which I can't say wasn't because I wasn't there. But
I think there may be a difference between what people remember as the best atmosphere, the lights and the national stage, and and a lot, let's be honest, some of these guys that are on Twitter are so much younger than me that they may not have been around, or because it was a night game at Auburn, so they were probably maybe home with their grandparents while their moms and dads were watching the game in person. So man, you're right. Well, look, this was fun. Thanks for running down all these players and breaking them down. I mean, there's a lot to be excited for, and it's I just want it's too far away. I mean, we're still several weeks away from G-Day, and it's like,
I know, yeah, we're still about 6 weeks out. But I think there's a lot to be excited about for Georgia coming into this offseason. I think G-Day is actually going to be as interesting as G-Day has been in many, many years, just because I think Georgia is in a place on offense and with the defensive line where you can say they're a legit, those are legit national title caliber units probably. And the secondary is going to be what we're all watching on G-Day to see how it looks and, whether those guys are covering well.
And we forget with the COVID year last year that a lot of these kids have not played in G-Day, not gone through spring practice. We've got, I think, 15 or 16 true, freshmen coming in that are early enrollees.
Yeah.
And all the freshmen from last year. I don't think we have a lot of transfers, but there was, there's a significant portion of the guys that haven't gone through this. I mean, not that G-Day is why you enroll at the University of Georgia, but still, it's, I mean, that's the case for everyone in college football. But to get these guys more snaps and more reps, and it's a good testament to what Georgia did last year that through it all. I mean, they fielded a great team with a lot of missing parts and parts you had to plug in and young players, and sky's the limit. Monken didn't even get his chance to meet any of these players until late in the summer, I think.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think Kirby said recently half the team hasn't been through a spring practice before. So, I mean, I think that's the exciting thing is there's a lot of guys that showed a lot of great potential last season. And, they're going to take that film from, that actual game film, not just practice reps, but game film, and be able to break that down and improve upon it. So there's a lot to be excited for. Before I close this out, how many games does Georgia win in Nashville at the SEC basketball tournament this week?
Man, Mizzou's good. I think I think it's
is that who we're playing first round?
I think so. I think it's the 7-10 is Mizzou.
Shit.
Yeah. 0 to I mean,
think so.
Yeah. It's basketball is such a mess. I mean, yeah, I'm going to say 0. I think Missouri is good, and Georgia is just too inconsistent and just does not have enough pieces. But who's your Final Four? Do you got chalk, or do you have a dark horse coming out?
Oh, we gotta wait till the brackets come out, and then we'll have fun with all that.
No, I'm talking about the SEC.
Oh, in the SEC, you know what? I haven't seen an actual SEC. Here we go. Bracket yet.
Wait, Alabama and Arkansas are the top seeds, and then
I think Arkansas is probably going to win the thing.
Yeah. I got a bet with Marler that Alabama doesn't make Sunday. So.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I like that. I could see actually. All right, hot take, dude. Kentucky's going to win that noon game against Mississippi State, and then they're going to upset Alabama on Friday.
Yeah,
in the quarterfinals.
I could easily. That's a bad draw for Alabama, but
it is.
That's a bad Kentucky team, and it's not like they've got any sort of institutional knowledge on how to win in tournaments. I mean, how many kids do they have that have played in a postseason tournament in college? Probably 1 or 2, between one and dones and missing a tournament all the games last year. But no, I like. I mean, I think you're looking at the jersey at that point, and maybe not the output of what Kentucky did, but that is a bad draw.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say my Final Four is gonna be like for the tournament. The teams that'll make the semis are gonna be Florida, Kentucky, Arkansas, and LSU.
Yeah, I think Alabama makes. I think Alabama gets in the Final Four, but I don't think they play on Sunday. I think they're gonna get upset in the semis.
Yeah. If Georgia,
all the Alabama fans will say, "Well, that's what you want. You don't want to get you. We need the rest." 3-point shooting team does not need the rest. Look at Baylor.
That's true.
Hey, I'm sorry. I'm hating on Alabama. And
no,
sorry,
you're
Marler.
good. Hey,
there's no way that Marler is actually watching this at this point. So.
Yeah, it's freaking 1:00 in the morning. But yeah, I mean, I think that Georgia will probably lose to Mizzou, but they did beat Mizzou earlier this season by like a pretty hefty margin. So I don't know. That team is so Jekyll and Hyde that I could see them like washing out in a 30-point loss. I could also see them, showing up, playing really well against Mizzou. I don't really see a scenario where they play like enough out of their asses to beat Arkansas, but 2008 happened, so anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I know you were trying to get us out of here, but the only thing I would say is like, I think we'd have been better off playing the first night. Because I think that it just gives a chance to beat a team and get some momentum going against an inferior opponent and stuff. I mean, Georgia clearly has the pieces there when they play well and they execute. It's all about don't turn the ball over. But I think when tournament play comes down and crunch time comes, they just turn the ball over too much.
Well, yeah, there's times where Tom Crean's whole like freewheeling fast break style of basketball is great. But there's times where a team that's core is all freshmen and sophomores needs someone to call a play and tell them, what to do out of a set piece. And it really fascinates me that Tom Crean makes $3.3 million a year and never once draws on a whiteboard during a fucking game. If I could find a gig like that, I would love to have it, because I'm honestly not sure he's ever coaching.
You're trying to bait me into this. I'm not doing it.
I'm really not trying to bait you. I'm just telling you how I feel.
We're talking about playoff expansion too.
I did have that argument on Twitter today as well.
Oh,
my thing is, I think we need to go back to BCS standings. Bring back the BCS standings. That way, because right now it's like, oh, well, Alabama's the most talented team, or Clemson's the most talented team, or Ohio State's clearly talented. So it's like the playoff bids get awarded on National Signing Day. So go back to the BCS standings.
No, I mean, as a numbers guy, they had 4 computer rankings in there. The Massey, I think there just needs to be some. If you're going to keep it at 4, you have to make some rules.
No, keep it at 4. Keep it at 4, but use the BCS standings to pick the 4.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing. We're saying the same thing. Just make some rules. It's like, if you're going to say that conference, let's do this another time. Well, maybe we'll do a podcast. Maybe we'll do a podcast. No audio, no video. We'll do a podcast on it, and we can even just have some folks on and riff, because I'll do it all day long. Shout out to John T. Powell. Who loves it? He baits me so well. It's awesome.
I know. He does. All right. That is Josh Ancher. You can find him on Twitter at Dawg_stats. And if you're not following him, you really should, because he tweets out lots of cool charts and, a lot of Tom Crean / playoff expansion stuff. And my name is Graham Coffey. We are Dawg Sports Live. Thank you for joining us. If you watched us live on this very late Tuesday night, we really appreciate it. What the hell are you doing? Why are you here right now at 1 o'clock?
You could have some West Coast folks. You never know.
That's true. It's only 11:12 p.m. where I am. So, yeah. But thank you guys for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. That's all I got, man.
Go Dogs. Thanks for. All right, man. We'll see you guys soon.